So the next thing that we're going to talk about are reflections. And the thing that we want to remember about reflections are they are the same size. And they are the same shape. Which we know means they are congruent. But reflections have a different orientation. So they don't stay facing the same way every time. So when we define a reflection, it is a transformation that flips a figure across a line Okay, so it's kind of like looking in the mirror. We're just going to be flipping it across the line. Okay? So the best way to do this is just to dive in and see how it works. This first one says, the figure shows triangle PQR. Graph the image of the triangle after a reflection across the x-axis. So what I would do every single time is I would highlight my axis. That way I know what I'm going across from. And then we are going to start with P because it's up here. And I'm going to count to my line of reflection. And I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I went 5 to get here, so I'm going to count 5 down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to put a point here. And I'm going to call this my P prime. I'm going to go to Q. And I'm going to count down to my line. 1, 2. Because I went 2, I'm going to go 2 past the line. 1, 2. I'm going to put a point. And I'm going to call it Q prime. And I'm going to do the same thing with R. Count down to the X. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to go that many past the X. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to put a point. And we're going to call it R prime. Now, you can put those together. And if I had drawn correctly and not had a line in the wrong place, this would be the same triangle. They would be congruent. It's just reflected, so it's kind of upside down. It's like looking at a picture of itself. And when we are talking about the algebraic representation for this, I'm going to pick a point. Let's pick R. And R, if I look at my original R, is sitting at -2, 4. So I'm going to have to look at R prime. It's here. And it is sitting at -2, -4. Now I have to ask myself, what happened to these points? This is how I found my algebraic representation. Did anything happen with my X? And no, it stayed the same. So I'm going to put, this is going to be hard to squeeze in here, X, Y, and then you have the line. And I'm going to say that my X stayed the same because it did not change. It stayed a -2. But look what happened to my Y. My 4 went from a positive to a negative. So there was a change. So I'm going to say -Y. And remember from before, this just means there's a change. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to be a negative. It just means we change signs. So this is my algebraic representation. Okay. Now if we come down here, we're going to try it again. This time they did not give us our points. So we are going to graph them. A is sitting at -4, 1. So we're going to go back 4, up 1. And we are going to put an A in there. B is sitting at -2, 1. So we're going to do the same thing. Put B. Remember, this is not our new figure, so this is just the original. We don't have to put a prime. C is sitting at -1, -2. So we're going to go here and put a C. And then we're just going to connect the dots. Okay? Now it says it wants me to graph the image of a triangle ABC after a reflection across the y-axis. So we're going the opposite way this time. I'm going to highlight my y. And I'm going to do the same exact thing I did above. And I'm just going to say, I'm going to start with A. And I'm going to say it's 1, 2, 3, 4 from the y. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to put an A prime here. B is 1, 2 from the line, so I'm going to count 1, 2. And I'm going to put a B prime here. And C is 1 from the line, so I'm going to count 1 here. And I'm going to put a C prime. Connect my dots, and I'm good to go. Now let's see what happens with this one for the algebraic representation. Let's use B. B is sitting at -2 and 1. And B prime is sitting at 2, 1, right here. So when I look at my XY, let's see what changed. This time my X, the 2's stayed in the same place, but it went from negative to positive. So there was a change in my X, and there was not a change in my Y. So when you flip across the X-axis, the Y changes signs. And when you flip across the Y-axis, the X changes signs. That's going to be important for you to remember. Okay, the next page I want you to do on your own. And then I want to look a little bit at this. We've talked about this, and they give you an example here, but we're going to work it here. This says triangle ABC has vertices of A is -2, 6, B is 0, 5, and C is 3, -1. Find the vertices of triangle ABC after a reflection across the x-axis. Okay? So we're going to look at A, and we're going to call it -2, 6. B is 0, 5. And C is 3, -1. If we remember from the notes earlier, our rule is X, Y. And if we're going across the x-axis, then the y changes. So it's going to be x and a change in y. So if we look at A prime, we know our x stays the same, so it's going to stay -2. But our y is going to change to a -6. For B prime, our x stays the same, so 0 stays the same. And our 5 is going to change to a -5. And then for C prime, our 3 stays the same because x is the same. And this -1 is going to change to a +1. Okay, if you have any questions about this, please come see me during tutoring.